Hi, I'm Nathan and welcome to Ninja Monkey, the place for all things related to Japan, where I'm currently focusing on what's going on behind Japan's closed borders. My aim in this video is to put all the readily available information into one place to make it easy for you, potential tourists, students, business people and anyone interested in Japan to follow what's happening. Hopefully my updates will help you make informed decisions leading to answering the question, when will Japan's border open? In this video, we will look at the situation in Tokyo with numbers of infected steadily falling and give you a vaccine update, explore another extended state of emergency and most importantly the bigger story about the exit strategy, which finally gives an indicator of when international travel will be reviewed and therefore potentially return. That is a big one, by the way, so make sure you watch all the way for that story. And we will also look into continued news for students as language institutions get together to pressure the government. And as always, timestamps are available for your convenience too. Let's start by having a look at what's happening in Tokyo. I continue to present on screen for you some stats including nationwide cases, Tokyo's numbers and the amount of PCR tests done nationwide. So feel free to pause the video if you want to. All stats are up to the latest government officially available data since the release of this video update. Looking at Tokyo's numbers, we can see that there is a downward trend. This is great news, with cases dropping for the last 18 days and Tokyo now seemingly reporting under 2,000 cases, and impressively seeing, for example, the 7-day average of new cases in Tokyo came from 1,837 compared to 3,140 a week ago. This is great news. In last week's update, I mentioned that one of the reported metrics for the state of emergency to be lifted would be that cases drop below 500. However, as we discussed later on in the video, much clearer requirements have come to light. We'll continue to keep a close eye on this front as we cannot rule out further spikes anyway. So let's follow on to see how things are progressing in regards to the vaccine drive. As of the latest officially available information from the 9th of September, there have now been a total of 140,295,783 doses administered. That's actually 7,237,580 more than last week's update and includes first and second doses. So that we can fully understand where those doses are actually going, let's break that down even further. 77,749,452 make up people who have had one dose, and 62,546,331 make up those who have received both jabs and would therefore be considered fully vaccinated. That means that out of a population of around 126 million people, 61.4% have now received one dose of the vaccine and 49.4% have received both doses of the vaccine. And for further clarity regarding the elderly, which are usually considered the most vulnerable group and make up people 65 years of age and older, 87.6% of those wishing to take the vaccine are now inoculated with both doses too. By the time this video is published, it's likely that 50% of the nation would have received both doses of the vaccine. Remembering that the government expects to inoculate most of the people by November, this is something that I believe is a realistic target at the current vaccination rate. So the question that I asked last week has finally been answered. To no surprise, the Japanese government has decided to extend the state of emergency. Originally covering 21 of Japan's 47 prefectures, the plan to end on the 12th of September will now remain in place until September the 30th in 19 prefectures, including Tokyo, Hokkaido, Aichi, Osaka and Fukuoka. Numbers of infections in Japan are actually down. However, there continues to be a large number of hospitalizations with patients with severe symptoms. We have to prepare for new waves of infection, but at the same time go forward with social and economic activities while living with this coronavirus, Suga said at his first press conference since announcing last week his resignation as Prime Minister, adding inoculations of all those who wish to be vaccinated will be completed in October or November. And from then, we will be able to ease restrictions by using proof of vaccination or testing results. I can't be 100% sure, but I believe that this might be the first, if not one of the few times that the government has made a comment referring to living with the virus. This, in my opinion, is a great indicator. The question remains, how will Japan adapt to living with the virus and what might it mean for students, tourists and other travelers alike? What do you think, team? The last few updates have been full of signals and news that have kept everyone guessing as to what might happen in the future. I recently reported that there have been discussions for an exit strategy to come to force. This exit strategy seems to have somewhat been finalized. So what can we learn from the exit strategy reports? The first thing that comes to light is that the newly put together exit strategy will come into effect around November period. Restrictions will continue but will be relaxed. with the government no longer banning restaurants in prefectures under the state of emergency from serving alcohol and closing early, as long as they follow steps to prevent infections. Additionally, people are also allowed to dine in larger groups, and cross-prefectural travel will be allowed. Large events with more than 5,000 attendees, for example concerts and sports games, will require vaccination or negative test results. A panel of experts advising the government said that the state of emergency should only be lifted if hospital bed occupancy rates fall below 50% and the number of patients with severe to moderate symptoms is on a downward trend. Nishimura, the minister in charge of Japan's coronavirus response, said the same day the government will also review its border controls for international travelers. Boom! The same day the government will also review its border controls for international travelers. We now have, perhaps for the first time, an indicator of when a review into border controls for international travelers will occur. Firstly, we need the state of emergency to be lifted. This is something that I've been saying for quite a while now. So let's keep a close eye and hope that the hospital beds fall below 50%, the number of patients with severe or moderate symptoms start showing a downward trend too, and additionally, the number of patients recovering at home or waiting to be hospitalized should also be lower than 60 people per 100,000 residents in major cities. Bear in mind that guidelines have been treated as flexible benchmarks rather than strict sets of criteria in the past. Team, although this is great news as we can now keep an eye on specific stats, we must continue to remember that all going well, it will lead to a review. And a review could mean reopening in part, in full, or not opening at all. Also remember that as the vaccine drive continues to progress, in theory, less and less will need hospitalization, so things are starting to look up. On the back of my midweek short about Japan's largest business lobby urging the government to take action to restart economic and social activity as the vaccine drive continues to accelerate, specifically asking the government to reduce quarantine time, there seems to be some sort of good news for future travellers and those who currently can enter due to special circumstances. And although not officially announced, it is being reported in various news outlets including Nikkei, NHK and the Japan Times that the government is expected to shorten the period of quarantine upon arrival for vaccinated people from 14 days to 10 days. And to answer the question that many of my viewers do ask, the reduced quarantine will apparently only apply to people who have received 2 doses of a vaccine approved in Japan. These are currently Pfizer, Moderna and AstraZeneca, and for the time being will also have to carry a vaccine certificate issued by Japan, the United States or the European Union, with reports saying that the government plans to start these amended quarantine measures from the end of this month at the earliest. My thought is that a reduced quarantine when entering Japan is good news as things seem to be progressing. However, I still think that there is a long way to go and that realistically for tourism to return, we will be needing shorter quarantine times or no quarantine whatsoever. And for my viewers who are not from Japan, not from the United States or not from the European Union, do not stress, as this actually is a very good step. We must remember that even though the quarantine time has or will be reduced, the majority of people are unable to enter Japan, including me and probably you if you're watching this video. Therefore, by the time we are able to enter, hopefully there will be more developments in this area, including more nation vaccinations accepted and perhaps even shorter quarantine times or no quarantine whatsoever. The fact that discussions are being held and some sort of decisions are being made make me fairly confident that we will start seeing a shift around November. But I wouldn't be surprised if there are smaller changes in the coming weeks also. And for today's final story, which is one that will certainly interest students, it seems that pressure continues to grow, and I am someone that believes that pressure can be a good thing as long as it comes at the right time. And this certainly comes at a good time when the government seems to be discussing and listening. 6 organizations of Japanese language education are preparing to submit a petition to Prime Minister Suga for the early relaxation of restrictions for international students. The petition notes that since the borders have closed, the number of students enrolled in Japanese language education has decreased significantly, and according to a survey conducted earlier by the 6 organizations, if immigration restrictions continue without change, this will pose big problems for institutions in the near future. The petition, which is scheduled to be submitted, mentions the current situation in which G7 countries and South Korea have already resumed accepting international students, even though they might have their own border enforcements in place. Also pointing out that many students are changing their destinations of study to other countries as a result of the current restrictions in Japan. The main arguments and issues seem to be that the recruitment relationships that Japanese language institutions have built with foreign countries and the Japanese language education infrastructure will collapse, and ask for implementation of early relaxation of immigration restrictions for international students. The 6 organizations are currently seeking Japanese language education institutions to support the petition, with the deadline being on the 13th of this month. So what do you think, team? Have any of you changed your course or thinking of changing to another country? I'd love to get your feedback on any of today's stories. And as always, thanks so much for watching this far and staying tuned. It must mean that you are liking the content so far, so please consider liking, subscribing if you haven't already, and hitting the bell notification to keep up to date with all future updates. I look forward to interacting with you in the comment section, and if you don't have much to say, then just say hello and where you're from. I'd love to get to know you too. So that's the end of the video. Thanks so much for watching. Till next time, arigatou gozaimasu, gracias, bye!